Talk about this tweet that you did on Saturday. You wrote, "You may lose your wife, you may lose your dog, your mother may hate you. None of those things matter. What matters is that you achieve success and become free. Then you can do whatever you like." You're getting a lot of blowback for that.
I stand behind that 100%. And you know why? If you're an entrepreneur, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because you need to sacrifice. You have to work 25 hours a day, 8 days a week, because your competitors in Mumbai or Shanghai, and they want to kick your butt. You have to win when you're young and sacrifice everything so that you achieve freedom for your whole family later in life. That's the whole idea. If you think you don't have to work and you don't have to take risk and you don't have to have commitment, you're not an entrepreneur. Just get a job and work for somebody else. Those words for people that are motivated to sacrifice personally to achieve success and freedom in their lives. If you don't get it, don't worry about it, because you don't fit the entrepreneurial mold. And, you know, I've been saying that for 20 years. If you really want to succeed, you got to work your you-know-what off, and then some, and then even more than that, and now even more because you're competing internationally.
You can say assets on this show.
Okay, well, that's exactly what I mean. If you're not ready to work your ass off, you're not an entrepreneur. Get over it. If that makes you uncomfortable, I couldn't care less.
I've got to ask you, and tell me if I'm wrong here. Are you encouraging people away from the stock market? Because I'm looking at what's on your wrist, and you said there are more tangible things in the moment that you would be investing in.
Yes, my watch collection over the last 3 years has outperformed the S&P by almost 11%. And so, funny you notice this watch. There's only one of these in the world.
Bright red, of course.
This is a one-of-a-kind AP made for Shark Tank Season 15. This has already appreciated 1,400%. I'd rather own watches than stocks right now if you can find them.
You said collectibles. Is that what you meant? Collectibles?
Yeah, collectible watches, very rare, one-of-a-kinds, that kind of thing.
Does that mean art as well?
Yes, art's doing very, very well.
Okay.
There's alternative assets. I tell people, wake up and look at the stuff besides stocks you can make money on.
What did the numbers that she just reported? What do you think? Retail sales 3% is the most since up 3%.
Year over year, over 6%. That is absolutely stunning. That is, you know, to be talking about a recession and have a print over 6%. It is almost unprecedented. And so something is really interesting here. We have full employment, it's been decades to have unemployment this low, remarkable. We're raising rates on the consumer. Core inflation in food is really high, and yet somehow, because everybody's got a job, you get a print like that. This is a rip-roaring economy, and if I were President Biden, I'd take advantage of what's happening here. These are big numbers. These are good numbers.
Well, he's going to speak.
Well, what do you mean take advantage? What do you think he should do?
It's very, very rare that you get a situation where you have full employment, you're raising rates, and you have retail sales numbers this strong. It just rarely ever happens. And you want to take credit for that if the administration, because everybody's feeling pretty good if retail numbers are up 6%. That's my whole point. Now, how long can this last is what every small business in America is asking themselves, because they're trying to make decisions every day about how much money they put into inventory, because they're supposed to be seeing a slowdown. Everybody's telling them there's a slowdown coming. Where is it? Yeah. That's the debate.
That's what we've been. Do we have the right sort of metrics to measure the economy coming out of COVID? Are we using old analytics for something that is different?
Don, you're right about that. The Fed is taking a lot of criticism specifically around housing. The housing data is 18-month-old as it goes into the CPI numbers. So when you talk about inflation and you keep fighting inflation with more hikes, it's because you're not really taking into account that housing prices are flattened and in some markets rolling over. And a lot of people are criticizing the old way of measuring inflation, saying, let's get housing out of there and let's look at core inflation such as food and energy prices, which are more current. But housing is a lag indicator. And so maybe what's happening here is the Fed is fighting, like Don Quixote, a fight that he doesn't have to fight anymore. But that's not going to place it in him. We're going to have 2 more rate hikes, at least 25 basis points each. With that data, I guarantee you the terminal rate, that's the rate where the Fed stops, is north of 5%.
Wow. Yeah. That's remarkable.
You know that's going to happen now. He's just sitting in his office saying, oh, my goodness, where did this come from?
Yeah, every time you kind of see a look on his face, he's like, okay, what's next? Can we talk about crypto for a moment? Because you were actually a spokesperson for FTX, which was Sam Bankman-Fried's crypto company. Of course, now we have all seen what's happened to it. The larger question, though, about what's happening to crypto overall, do you think that we're entering kind of the Dodd-Frank era of crypto where there's going to be legislation and regulation?
If there's a silver lining to this catastrophic collapse of FTX, which cost so many people so much, It's that it poked the bear in Washington. And it's forced regulators to regulate. You've seen the heavy hand of Gensler. He really hammered Kraken.
The SEC chair.
Yeah, it basically said no more lending of crypto. It's not a law yet for everybody, but he's saying, read the room. I just shut down one exchange, and I'm going to do it for everybody else that keep doing this. It was called Kraken. And then this morning we hear the regulator in New York has basically shut down the minting of Binance tokens. There are $64 billion of Binance tokens held in 2 wallets. Well, I wonder who owns those.
Yeah.
Because if one of those people wants to sell, that's Binance down the drain. So it's going to get very interesting.
All right, just real quick, if we can do this as a lightning round, because you said that you would do everything you did, because you were a spokesman for the Sam Bankman or FTX. You said you do everything to track down the money. Have you made any progress?
Oh, my goodness. It's the whole narrative on this situation for everybody is around recovery. We've heard about $4.2 billion, another $1.2 billion, another $400 million of cash. Where is it? We need the regulator to actually give us the data.
You also tweeted that you would work with him again, Sam Bankman-Fried.
Oh, no. That was long before.
Okay.
I've been known on Shark Tank for over a decade that I will give money to catastrophic outcomes for entrepreneurs that have learned their lesson through failure, not when you're involved in an alleged fraud.